I'm going to read this morning from the 10th chapter of Matthew, verses 40 through 42. It says this: "Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward." This is the word of God for the people of God. What is our understanding of how we are to share Jesus? And I know this is a word that makes churches quake. It's called evangelism. It is evangelism. And I want you to know that the most important thing is that when we know about the love of God and we purposely and intentionally share it with others, that's evangelism. And that's who we are, and that's what we are to be doing. A pastor tells a story of a man named Joe and his son Jared. They were playing catch, and Jared asked Dad, "Is there a God?" Now, that's the kind of question that saps all of the knowledge and strength right out of your brain, and that's what it did for Joe. He didn't know whether to run, stand still, or use up some pat answers that he had heard as a child growing up. But in the end, he opted for honesty, and he said, "I honestly don't know, son." You see, Joe had not grown up in the church. Now, that wasn't the right answer for Jared. He turned and he headed into the house. He returned with a Mylar balloon purchased the day before at the circus, had some string and a note card. And Father said, "What are you going to do with that?" And he answered, "I'm going to send God a note airmail." It read, "Dear God, if you are real, would you please send some people who know you to us?" Now, Joe didn't want to say anything that would dampen his son's enthusiasm. Didn't really think this was a great idea, but he helped his son attach the note to the balloon, and they set it free. 2 days later, they pulled into a church car wash, outreach to the community, and it was free. So Joe said, "Well, how much?" Told by the guy, "It's free, no strings attached." And Joe exclaimed, "Really? Well, why are you doing this?" And the answer was, just to show the love of Jesus in a practical way. Well, at that time, Joe's brain flashed, and he says, "Wait a minute, you guys are Christian." And the guy smiled at him and says, "Yeah, we are." Joe pressed even harder. He said, "The kind that believe in God?" And smiling, the man said, "Yes, we do that too." Joe, smiling at Jared, told of the balloon note to God, commenting that they were one of the strangest prayers probably ever prayed, but was received and answered. This is a true story. It's about a church in Ohio. They're committed to what they call servant evangelism, and it's defined as follows. Servant evangelism is demonstrating the kindness of God by offering to do some act of humble service with no strings attached. Matthew 10:42, Jesus is speaking of sharing a cup of cold water. And he's speaking of doing something that's practical, something that shows that you're living a Christian life. Christianity and our relationship to God is personal, but it's not meant to be private. Our life with God is meant to touch the lives of others in very practical ways. Now, serving as a Christian can be done in simple, practical ways, and yet His love will be shared with others. We are to show the love of God through our caring and our loving actions toward others. Now, sometimes, even the simplest acts of love can make a difference in someone's life. While in college, I worked summers for a company, and the gentleman who owned the company was well known, and he was kind of known sometimes about living over the edge and sometimes a little over the top. Well, one day he asked if I had change for $1, and as I checked, he noticed a small cross that I had in my pocket. You may have them. They're just small little metal crosses that say God is love on them. And I shared with him the reason I carried it, and because of the charge that was given with the cross, I asked him if he would like it. And he took it. I'm not sure why. Several years later, though, through many difficult trials in his life, he was talking to my mother, pulled the cross from his pocket, and related that I had given it to him. The most important thing that we can do for all of those around us is to share ourselves. The love that God has given to us, we simply share with others. We show God's love to others by humbly giving of ourselves in very practical ways. We simply need to do acts, even little ones, in the name of the Lord. Our motivation is simply that we have God's love at work in our heart, and we want to share it with others. One of the fast food chains challenges us to think outside the box. I'm going to tell you, that would be a great slogan for the church. The Lord that we serve cannot be contained neatly in a box. Jesus challenges his disciples and us here in Matthew 10 and in other places to show the main thing, which is God's love at work. We talk about having God's love. Show me how you have God's love in your life. In the text, it's a cup of water. In John 13, at the Last Supper, Jesus is washing the feet of the disciples. He challenges them to love others. In John 13:35, he states that we will be known because of the love that we have for each other. It seems like sometimes we have the mindset that it's got to be a great thing that we do for the Lord to count. And often we allow the practical, everyday duties of life kind of slide by, waiting on the big one. We really don't know what small act of kindness can transform a life when God's power is used in our lives. A smile, a touch, a word, just sitting down and being present. John Bowes is the chairman of the parent company of Wham-O, who makes Frisbees. He was participating in a charity event, and he sent several thousand of those little plastic flying discs to an orphanage in Angola, Africa, thinking that the children would have a lot of fun playing with them. Well, several months later, a representative from the company had visited the orphanage, and the administrator thanked him profusely for the wonderful plates that the company had sent them. He said the children not only ate from them, they carried water with them, they even caught fish with them. And the representative explained the purpose of the Frisbee, and the administrator thanked him again, and he thought, man, that's great. They can also